When I was young and had no beard, my grandfather's uncle died at the age of 115. We called him Baba, or grandfather. He used to say that we are the children of Israel. I was young, and at that age people forget things. They don't care much about history or talk of this kind. But now I would like to know, what are our origins? Where do we come from?
Our grandfathers always told us that we are from the Bani Israel, the children of Israel. They said the Jews are as Pathans as we are.
It's clear that a Judaic memory persists, but were there ever people here who openly identified with Judaism? There is now a tiny community of Afghani Jews in Israel. Like the Bukharans, they are largely unknown here. They remember their former Pathan neighbors as not quite Jewish. But perhaps related to them in some way.
They were the ones who wore these prayer shawls, four-cornered garments like we do. And they didn't really know what they were, and they used to be surprised to see us wearing similar things. They would say to us, "You're Jews? How could you be Jews?" They'd be surprised. I remember them coming from the border areas, from the mountains, from Pakistan, places like Jalalabad. And I remember people said that to this day they still lit candles on the Sabbath. They would put the candles under these baskets and didn't know why they were doing it. They had all these traditions they didn't know the origins of. Except they said, that is what our forefathers did.
Did they think they were Jewish?
They thought they were more Jewish than us.
The prophets say that equal numbers of Israelites and Judeans will herald the Messiah. Interestingly, the number of Pathans and Jews in the world is virtually identical. The prophecy also foretells that it is Manasseh and Ephraim that will take the lead in the return. In India we had encountered the Manasseh. If we were right, here among the Afridi we had come face to face with Ephraim. However, before we could accept that the end of days was upon us, we needed more proof. On the road to Armageddon, it now seemed appropriate that our journey take us through a minefield. We needed harder evidence that the Pathans were of the lost tribes, so we went to the Afghani city of Kandahar, where in the 1950s a stone covered in ancient script was discovered. During the Soviet invasion, this stone was buried under rubble and surrounded by mines. Here, red dots mark undetonated mines, which we skirted to get to the site. "2,300 years ago, the Buddhist emperor Ashoka put up propaganda pillars throughout his empire. Until the Kandahar discovery, it was thought that these stones were always written in Sanskrit. But the stone buried here is written in Aramaic. In other words, the people then living here spoke in the everyday language of the Israelite tribes. We came here with a local elder in the hope of photographing it, but in its present state that proved impossible.
It's under here. The stone is very big and there is ancient writing all over it. Same hard surface as this one, but no one can get to it now. This is definitely the place. There's no point in looking any further.
We did look further. We were tipped off that across the border in Pakistan, there was another stone rarely mentioned by Western scholars.
Look at that. There it is, right over there.
What is it? What is it?
Here, the stone was accessible. To our surprise, we discovered that it too was not written in Sanskrit, but in the Aramaic alphabet.
I see all the letters, the Aleph, the Ain, and I'm standing in front of this 2,300-year-old postcard from the Lost Tribes. And when we pack up our gear and we go, and I'm like in shock, because I didn't expect to find it. I was thinking it's in Kandahar. I didn't know there was another one here. And there's two more in places we didn't go. And one has on it the Hebrew month of Elul. So then this guide comes up to me and they told me, don't say you're Jewish, don't say anything, because people here are very Muslim, they may not take kindly to you. So he says, why were you able to read that? And I feel, I don't want to lie to this guy. And I said, because I'm a Jew. And this person, who's supposed to be my enemy, leans over with tears in his eyes, embraces me, and says, then you are my brother. So maybe it was happening. Maybe the end of time was unfolding. I was standing there and I got goosebumps. I said, wait a minute, is this it? Am I making a film, or am I turning into the reporter from Armageddon?
The entire Kashmir is indeed a blessing of the divine. There is something in Kashmir which uplifts the soul. After all, there has to be some reason why Jesus Christ chose Kashmir to settle down. One of the reasons of Christ's arrival in Kashmir can be traced here. This is Gutlibagh, about 50 kilometers from Srinagar. People are simple, hardworking, and efficient in whatever they do. What makes them different is that they are not original Kashmiris. Centuries ago, they came here from Afghanistan's side. They speak the Pashto language, but they have not forgotten that they are originally Jews from Palestine, the homeland of Jesus Christ. They call themselves Bani Israel. History tells us that out of 12 Jewish tribes, 10 had migrated away from Israel since 5 centuries before Christ. These scattered 10 tribes have been known as the lost sheep of Israel. Many of these lost Jewish tribes have got settled along the Silk Route, Afghanistan and up to Kashmir.
There are huge Jewish populations along the Silk Route. Afghanistan, most of the tribes in Afghanistan, the warlords, the Taliban, the Pashtuns, are all descended from the 12 tribes of Israel, and many are still known by their tribal names, their biblical names. And they wandered and settled across most of Afghanistan and what is now Pakistan, northern India, and Kashmir.
Gathering these lost sheep back in his fold was one of the missions of Christ's life. In the Bible, Jesus says, "Go not into the way of Gentiles, and into the city of Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Scholars suggest that the lost sheep of the house of Israel Jesus was referring to included these Jewish tribes which were settled in the regions adjoining Kashmir. These tribes are of a tall, robust frame of body with manly features. The women, fully formed and beautiful, with aquiline noses, and their features also resemble the Jews. Most of the Afghan tribes are the descendants of the Jews. He wanted to seek and save them. Therefore, it is no wonder that he proceeded towards Kashmir. This is the residence of Qutb Alam Badshah, the head Maulavi of Gutlibagh. Today, there is a big gathering to sing glory of the Lord. Qutb Alam Badshah presides over the function. The culture and tradition of Kashmiris are different from ours. We have not forsaken our traditions. Their eating habits, costumes and living style is very different from ours. So far, we have not had marital relations with them. Their culture is different. Ours is different. With the advent of modernity, this community is showing signs of change. They are opening up to new ideas. As India is developing fast in a globalized world today, the Kashmiris are also reaping rich dividends. There are several such communities of Bani Israel in Kashmir and India. These people of Jewish descendants have physical features which are strikingly different from other Indian communities. Some genetic studies are also being conducted which indicate the Jewish links. Experts have identified more than 90 tribal or caste names which are common both to Kashmir and Israel. There are a large number of terminologies in Kashmir which might be having Hebrew links. Mr. M.B. Alam lives in his residence at Gutlibagh. He is a scholar of the history of Bani Israel. We are Israelis, connected to Prophet Moses. Prophet Ibrahim had 11 children. Huda was the eldest. We are his descendants. We are Bani Israel. Our living style, food habits, traditions, and even language is different from that of Kashmiris.
There are many correlations about the similarities between Hebrew people and the people of Kashmir. The linguistic similarities, which are very strong, types of foods, the types of clothing, DNA, the kind of knife used by butchers, the shape of the end of the oars of the shikara boatman is a heart-shaped, the end of the paddle, which is the same as the ancient Hebrew oars.
I remember being quite surprised when someone I know was actually hired by the Indian government to do research to try to explain why there are so many Hebrew names in India.
Therefore, the Messiah may have been talking about the people of Kashmir when he talked about the lost sheep of Israel, the lost tribes that he needed to